What's going on, everybody, and welcome to my show, Tracing the Facts. I'm your host, the Puerto Rican conservative, and today I wanted to talk about the sad reality of America today as we speak, which is that the Democratic Party has become so radicalized and extreme that many Americans no longer consider it a legitimate part of the U.S. government, but instead a shadow government forged by a man known as George Soros. Now, if you think about it, no other movement, party, or anti government cell within the U.S. portrays more traits associated with terrorism than the Democratic Party. Let's breeze through a few examples so that you know more or less what I'm talking about. Abortion, Pan-Africanist, racist black movements, the deafening silence that follows riots, looting, and fascist-like assaults against those with opposing views through groups like Antifa, who claim to fight fascism, using the MSM as a paramilitary extension of their propaganda-filled agenda, burning and kneeling for the flag, indoctrinating children into hating their country and the president, radicalizing women's movements against politicians from the opposing party when they don't agree with the person being nominated, funding movements that counter the culture of the traditional family, using viruses to fabricate pandemics they can use to economically terrorize Americans for voting for Donald Trump, shutting down businesses and enforcing unsuccessful protocols, lying to their constituents, reigniting racial tensions using propaganda, revising the part they played in history to accommodate their denialism, and I'm talking about the Confederacy and the removal of statues, funding think tanks to normalize pedophilia, restricting the movement of religious practitioners while granting rioters unlimited and unconditional freedom to burn, loot, and attack law enforcement, sustaining America divided with the generational reintroduction of identity politics and race-baiting rhetoric and open borders so that others who also hate America just like them and would like to do nothing more than change America from within come into America and join their ranks. Most of this is considered normal activity by the left today, who claim that under democracy, the people are afforded the freedom to disrupt the lives and businesses of their neighbors. This extremism has been strategically planned by George Soros to such a minute level that is terrifying. Recently, Newt Gingrich, Republican Newt Gingrich, who drafted and engineered the Contract for America that brought America to the Republican side, was shut down by supposed right-wing news outlet Fox News and not allowed to state the obvious, which is that every major district attorney and prosecutor in cities where riots have gone unchecked and criminals continue to be released back into the streets have all been directly funded by George Soros. So if you think about those facts, you think about the fact that Newt Gingrich got shut down. You think about the fact that in 2017, it came out in Fox News that George Soros placed a $30 billion wager that America's economy would collapse immediately after Donald Trump was inaugurated. Then you realize that what's going on today is all planned. It's all been plotted and it's all been engineered by one man, George Soros, the same man that many people claim has absolutely no ties to Nazi history, even though he himself claimed that his parents paid off a German who was part of the Nazi party to take him in and act as if he was his godson and he was raised as a Nazi youth. And there's a lot of things that he today is funding that almost mirrors the things that were utilized during the Nazi era. And I'm talking about, if you make comparisons between the populism or at least the political themes and rhetoric that is being utilized today by the left, such as movements that claim to be anti-fascist while simultaneously portraying fascist conduct. If you think about Antifa, Antifa claims to be anti-fascist, but what is fascism? Fascism is exactly what the KKK used to do from the 1920s on backwards, which was to use physical assaults to discourage people from either voting or voicing their their support for certain politicians or certain legislation. What does Antifa do today? Antifa goes out and they target right-wing rallies and they physically assault them and utilize the pretext that the people that they're attacking are fascists, even if they haven't placed a finger on them. And then they have the mainstream news media to follow up and stonewash the facts for Antifa. So when you put all of this together and you make the ties between George Soros and the majority of these left-wing outlets, then you draw the same conclusion that I drew, which is not a far-fetched notion, which is that today's Democratic Party is nothing more than a military extension of George Soros' agenda, an agenda that includes open borders so that terrorists and people that hate America can freely enter this country and fundamentally change America from within. Because before you can change policies, you must first launch a project of cultural Marxism so that on a basic and fundamental level, you can change that society. America has been experiencing ideological subversion since the 1920s. And those who do not believe me, you don't have to. There was a member of the Soviet Union who came to the United States and claimed that from the 1920s on forward, there was an ideological war, an information war that was launched against America to culturally subvert America, so that America can be defeated on a basic and on a fundamental level. Because once you defeat the ideas that make America exceptional, then you ultimately defeat that country, and then you lower the bar of what is expected of that country, and that country will no longer meet up to the standards of that which once defined American exceptionalism. So when you think about that, you could take concepts such as feminism, which was started in the 1960s as what? As a counterculture war against what? Feminism. Feminism is the cultural and political opposite of familism. The familism works for and represents for and advocates for the family as a collective, as a unit. Whereas feminism forges the idea that you can be autonomous by being individual. This in turn creates a less successful society, and it is for economical reasons that it basically breaks down in an economical way first. Because if you think about it, if an unskilled worker can make $40,000 a year, and that unskilled worker, socially, he's in the same environment as other unskilled workers, he's gonna find himself a partner, and she's also making 30 or 40,000. When they come together as a family, they're making 80 or 90,000. But as individuals, they're each making 40,000. And when you deduct the amount of rent that is taken out of that money, the amount of utilities that is taken out of that money, the amount of bills, the amount of insurance, the amount of whatever other protection that they need, those people will be generationally sustained in poverty. So through these tactics of weaponizing these identity movements, they create them in a way that these movements will counter the known successes of the values and traditions that conservatives want to preserve. So if you want to preserve feminism, because it has been known that even before technology, the family unit created and was part of a successful society. When there is no family unit, there is no unity, there is no working together. There is individualism, and through individualism, we create micro-polarization. Today we live in a world where everything is gender-based. I was embarrassed this week when I heard Trump asking the audience whether they wanted a man or a woman. You know why? Not because I don't want a woman as a jurist for the Supreme Court, and not because I want a man, but because as conservatives, we should be conserving and preserving the ideas that were considered successful. And it is not successful to pander to gender movements or gender politics. To me, what it means to be a conservationist or conservative ideas that are successful is to champion for a person who exemplifies American exceptionalism, whether he's a man or whether he's a woman. That is not something that we should even take into account when we're choosing our officials. Because when we put a person in a position to represent us, we have to make sure that we choose the best. This is my take, this is my perspective, and this is my opinion. I want everybody to stay safe, stay informed, and God bless. And hopefully you guys will research most of the stuff that I put down and draw your own conclusions.